Hi, everyone. It's Nancy, the nurse practitioner, and we're here with a lovely friend of mine that I met on LinkedIn. And it's a wonderful space, by the way, because you can meet a lot of wonderful people who have great services and care for the people all over the country and for all over the world, for that matter. So I'm really having a blast finding these great talents out there that are doing healthcare all over the world. So I've met Adrian Allotey, and she is an end-of-life doula. She's going to tell us all about what a doula is. I've known of doulas when my sister had 4 babies at home, and she had a birth doula. But we're going to talk about the end-of-life doula. And she has a company that's called You Are Not Alone Elder Care LLC. So I'm going to introduce you to Adrian. She's going to tell you how, all about herself, her background, and how she started this business. Welcome, Adrian. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I just appreciate what you said about LinkedIn. It's definitely a way that we can collaborate, and many of us share the same goals and helping others. And I just appreciate and bow down to the way you go about sharing information with people who are in need. And, just having the right information just makes all of the difference. So thank you.
I so agree. And it's been really great to meet wonderful people out there for sure. Like you. So tell us all about yourself.
The same. So I have to start off with this story. I definitely have good genes. My grandmother lived until she was 106. And, I've always been like a spiritual person. I've always been one, even from a child, who would go in and help the elderly in the neighborhood. I didn't have to, go out and shout and share that I was doing that, but I always just gave them a lending hand. And as I did that, I would listen to some of their stories and just even enjoyed it as a child. But when it came to my 106-year-old grandmother, as she became later on in years, at that time I was a mother, had a successful career, a wife, all those life duties just got in the way with me providing companionship. She was very healthy, good genes. I'm knocking on wood for myself, but she was very healthy. But, companionship was something I felt she needed. And I didn't feel like I was there as much as I felt like she deserved for me to be there. And so that always, bothered me. So what do? You turn a negative into a positive. The other thing with my grandmother is when she passed away, I was the last family member to be with her. And so when I left her, she passed away like an hour later. And so I didn't know that. I didn't understand what was the active dying phase. I didn't know we had days, weeks, months. I just didn't have that understanding. Even though she was getting good physical care, there was no one there to guide the family to say, we're looking at the end here. And so as an end-of-life doula, that's what I do. I come into families who have a terminal diagnosis, and I just explain the natural process of dying. Death is the second largest fear. Why? Because it's the unknown. Outside of supernatural, you don't have a chance to do it twice. And so I just come in, I guide people through the process. I say, this is what's happening now. These are some tips for comfort. And then this may, based off of the normal process, this may happen next. And so that makes a big difference. It eliminates the anxiety and stress. And
so you're talking about more of the process, like I would tell my patients if the bottom of the feet are turning cyanotic or bluish, that we know that the circulation is moving into the rest of the major organs to do the body survival, which tends to happen as a body changes. It tries to stay alive. It sort of pushes everything into the major organs. And I would tell people things like that, or the changing in the breathing. But as a doula, which I see the spiritual part of you, and you also have a Reiki background, you mentioned, right, to me before. Tell me how you talk to me about what you do in addition to that, because it sounds like there's more. Go ahead.
So when I go into someone's home or wherever their location, and hopefully the goal is to build a relationship before they're actually dying. That's really the relationship important, because the more I know, the more I'm able to serve. But energetically, I'm able to also calm with, through the Reiki, do some healing. But my job is to come in and to release people, so I do things like clear the environments, maybe open the windows, making sure they're comfortable, just being able to pick up on things that are said and not said, and be able to provide techniques for comfort. So as far as the medical pieces, you did a good job explaining that process. I, on the other hand, would just come in and put it in layman's terms for the families. Mm-hmm. And then I may instruct them when they see the blood going towards the organs as you have shared. I may show them how to touch. It's okay to touch. It's okay to talk. Include those things as far as what their spiritual beliefs are. Yes. And so, so I let the medical people do the medical things, and I focus in on the emotions that are in the room, the mental state, giving people permission to feel and say what they have to say. And, as you probably know, people will hold on for different reasons. And so, again, energetically, I'm able to pick up on things that maybe they can't say, to be able to give them that permission. It could be a dog. That's what my dog taking care of. And so,
so it's not only the person, it's telling the family how to embrace this process in the present. Like right now, this is happening, and you don't know if you leave the room and mom just said her last word. And I also tell people that they hear, the last sense is the hearing, that if you want to put on music that they loved, or you want to whisper prayers in their ear that they always loved, or poetry, or sing to them, or talk about. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And not only that, people focusing on the hearing, touch. Your skin is your largest organ. So yes. Hearing, and then smell. Like I will incorporate essential oils into the room.
Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's really true, because I use diffusers a lot with lavender to help calm my aggressive patients, at night. But why not when they're strained and stressed about the process of dying, and maybe they, like you said, they could be scared. Absolutely. Or they don't know what's happening to them. Yes.
Or we could be in for a long night, so we might need some peppermint to keep the family up and going, or or lemon, because like they're sad. A little lemon in the room goes a long way.
That's so neat. That's true. The senses are the limbic, which is the sense to the brain, is our emotion, can really, really help you change the whole aura of the room. So cool. So tell me more about how Reiki was part of was that before you became a doula?
So I actually, so again, I've always been a spiritual person, kind of unexplainable spiritual. And the spirit is not religion, but just being in the moment and being present. That moment speaks so loudly when we just calm our brains and tap into that moment. And so I started off as a Reiki practitioner. I became a hospice volunteer for 2 local hospices. And I did that for about 2 years before. And all along, I was still working, parenting, wifing, and all that good stuff. Then after 2 years of doing volunteer work, which I still will do volunteer work, I quit my job and started doing this full time. Yeah.
So how do you get your referrals for seeing the people, and do you get paid for this?
So I do. It's private pay.
Okay.
Most people, so it's a lot of education. So people, like you said, have heard of birth doulas. I actually had one with my first daughter. So it's kind of like a 360 moment in many ways. But usually it's a lot of educating, because people don't know that there's non-medical assistance at the end of life. And so it's a lot of education, doing talks, putting information out on the internet, having these type of conversations. And then there are some people who do know, and they'll sort of look out on different, Googling it. Is there a doula in the area? Or there are some national websites that I can share with you as well.
We'll definitely share this, everyone, on my Facebook page at the end, facebook.com, Caregiver Success. Anything from this video will be there. Also, how to get a hold of Adrian by phone number and by email and website, just so you can see what she does. Because, I'm sure there are doulas everywhere, but we'll talk about that in a minute. What does your company offer, though, Adrian, for these people?
So in addition to like preparing them for their last breath, and holding their hand through their last breath, and then helping those create a new normal, I also do advanced directives. We have to have those tough conversations on what do we believe.
Yeah.
Do we want the artificial life support? Do we want to die at home? Do we want to die? Is it okay to die in a hospital?
Mm-hmm.
We have to have those conversations. And so a lot of times there are some people who will create those advanced directives and then they put them away and nobody ever talks about them. So what I do is, in addition to creating them, I also have family conversations. So that way everyone's on the same page and they know what mom and dad wants. I also take it a step further and I create living well plans. And so a living well plan allows them to say, what do they want in those last days? Do they want certain people there? Do certain people need to be notified? Again, are there certain smells you like, certain songs? So I really look at the person and respect them until that last breath. And so as far as I'm concerned, they're still living. So we say they're dying, but really they're still living. We do life reviews. I don't want a person to think that they are that illness or that point in their life. So we'll review their entire life. You are a culmination of every role, contribution you have made to your family, to your society. We also create remembrances. Sometimes it's important for people to want to leave something behind, maybe a cards that go out, annually, maybe a book, a story. But I really have to tell you, people are more, death awareness is more common now. And so sometimes people even want to be involved in their memorial service planning. Maybe they want to write their eulogy, I allow, if they're open to that, I allow them to have that voice and choice, but I also give them choices and voices along the way. Once you take that last breath, you don't have to automatically call for somebody to come and get the body. So we talk about, do you want to create a ritual? Do you want to, clean the person? Just giving them ideas that are out there. And then if they do need help planning those memorial services, after the fact, you've just gone through, families have just gone through very, maybe a long illness. And what do the funeral homes may say? They may say, in the morning, come meet with us. I always tell them, take a breath. And if there's anything I can do to help in that process, so that way you can continue to relax. That's what I do. Yeah.
So the important thing that I just got out of this, especially is, because we have no control of when we're going to die, we can have control of what we want and the situation we want to be in when we are at that point. Kind of interesting because it gives you that feeling of not only control, but power to know that you can really have it your way.
Yeah.
It just has to be very clearly said and written. And you're right, life and death has come a long way. We've had a lot of different situations, and I've signed so many death certificates and been with so many people at their last breath. And I remember I'd be there and not their family, and I'd be holding their hand, and I would be saying things to them that they can go now. I'll tell Mary, I'll tell Joe, and they would die right with me there, and it was very peaceful and very sweet. And I was glad I was there.
And I always, I hate to say this, but it's the truth. And there are things that happen that medicine or science can't explain. And so that's why I say it's not a medical event, it's a spiritual event.
That's so wonderful. So you also you have companionship, transportation, and ADLs, activities of daily living. Tell me more about that part of the doula position.
So my training, my extensive training, my focus is more on building the relationships. And so I don't want to meet you at the end of life. I just don't. So I will, companion people, build that trust, build that relationship. So that way it's just an easier process at the end. So I go in, I, take people out to lunch and dinners and gardening, and you just name it. And that's,
that's great.
I enjoy being in the last breaths. I do, but you have to balance it out. And so that's a chance for me to balance it out, just to sit and talk. And there's so many Oh, our elders have so many stories to share.
Oh, don't they? It's so great. I am actually going to be doing a video soon with a woman from Australia who was a funeral director, and she wrote these books. She made these books that allowed people to write their whole stories with you. You sit down with grandma and say, what was your favorite thing to do when you were a kid? What was your first boyfriend's name? Did you ever have a car or whatever? And you can have a whole story. So before grandma dies, you have all her recipes, you have all her, so she's going to be cool, but that's more of the earthly leave behind stuff. Although it is a piece of her being left behind, her dad, that you have in a book that even your great grandchildren can see. I'm looking forward to that as also part of what you're doing, because it is almost the closure, but the beginning. You could take this book and use it for a new grandchild and say, you didn't meet grandma, but this is what she was about. Here's pictures, here's stories, and it brings her to life and it tells them what their heritage was. I think it's a really cool thing to keep this thing going about our genealogy and our ancestors, if we can.
Yeah. And you know,
So,
the other thing I didn't mention,
mhm.
prior to doing this, I also was a stand-up comic.
Oh, cool.
I used a lot of humor. And you know what?
Humor's great.
Even people with advanced dementia and people in their very last breath, they
Yeah,
can receive and give a laugh. They really can.
yeah.
It may not be a vocal, it could just be an eye roll and they know it's funny or something that it represents. And so amazing work. It's amazing work.
That's so great. You were a stand-up comic? That's a riot. That's great. So you say you also provide transportation to where? Like it says
Yeah.
transportation, anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah. So I'm not a transportation company, but
Right.
you have the insurance and the proper coverage to be able to take my clients out to, like, say, dinner or, you know, to a movie or to a show.
Okay, I see. So this is
Not a
all
family.
inclusive.
Yeah. So I don't drop anybody off. If
Right.
I transport you, we stay and we hold hands through the activity. So
That's
sometimes people
wonderful.
do need doctors appointments, and so sometimes it is things like that. Sometimes it's just a grocery store. It's
It's wonderful.
it's getting our nails done.
Yeah, things like that. So I think, is there anything else that is really pertinent that you want to bring up and important, Adrian,
Well, I
before
think
we
that
close?
because you have a national audience, I would just want to mention the National End of Life Doula Alliance. They have a website and they have
Yep.
a directory of doulas.
Okay, how do we find that? And I'll put that on my Facebook page for
So
everyone.
it's the National End of Life Doula Alliance website. I think it's nita.org or .com. I'll send you over to make sure, but it's the National End of Life Doula Alliance website. So if someone is looking for a doula and
Mm-hmm.
you know they're in a state other than New Jersey, because New Jersey would call me,
Mm-hmm.
but
That's good to
you can
say. You're in New
have
Jersey.
access to a national directory.
That's really great. And they're all over the country then, pretty
Yes,
much.
yes. There aren't many of us, but we are there. We're all over.
This is so wonderful. Well, I'm so glad, Adrian, that you came on with me today. And for everyone out there, we're learning something new today. Just another piece of caring for each other and for our loved ones as their ends of life come. So to Adrian Allotey from You Are Not Alone Elder Care LLC, she could also be reached at 856-497-3512 if you live in New Jersey and need her care. 856-497-3512, and I'll send you her email and LinkedIn and whatever else we can send for you. She'll maybe even help you find somebody. What do you say?
Absolutely. And I also help people who want to get in this line of work. And that's free of charge. I just want more people having great passings. And so
Now, see, that's really good, because just from hearing this, maybe you're gonna be talking to somebody through this video that needs to find their next mission in life, and this is so needed, and I love what you're doing. So thank you, Adrian, for coming on, and to everyone at Caregiver Success, thank you for coming on board. Please subscribe to YouTube at Caregiver Success for more informative videos. Take care of yourself now. Bye-bye.